All right, Graciëlla, Sharon. We're here at the Playbook podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good, yeah. Just finishing some stuff before Christmas actually starts. Doing quite well.
End of the year.
Yes.
All right. So, today I want to have a candid, open conversation with you about, you as an entrepreneur, about your business, Jochem, and us as well as a studio, right? You want to talk about, what makes business great, things we learned. Maybe a small introduction about ourselves and about you as well.
Yeah.
Set it off?
Yes. Shall I kick off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I'm Graciëlla, founder of Closure and Jochem.AI. Started 6 years ago. I have a background in econometrics, machine learning, AI. I think we'll come back to that later as well. And we originally started with Closure, which is a very specific customer support solution, namely helping families after passing by finalizing contracts and accounts. Sounds B2C, is actually B2B. So our customers are the organizations that provide the contracts and accounts. And by now we launched more customer support solutions, and Jochem.AI is the newest one of them. And that is like a virtual colleague for employees, mainly customer support employees, that help them work more efficient, but also have them enjoy their work more.
Love it. All right. So look, today open, candid conversation, like we just said, about anything you basically learned how to get where you are today. I'd love to talk a bit about the future as well. I mean, we've been hearing all about AI, right? Maybe we could get into that later instead of starting with that. So to kick it off, tell us, you now have Jochem.AI, like you just said. It's a new company.
Yeah.
You're running two?
Yes.
Tell us all about it. How is that?
Yeah, it's interesting. They are completely different. So Closure is more like a blue ocean. It's a very boring business.
Boring.
It's boring. Yes, it even has a name. It's dead tech. People don't like launching companies within this space. So there's also not so much competition.
You might have a lot of churn.
Literally, yeah. So you would. We are basically the first ones doing this. So we literally need to figure everything out ourselves. There's nobody to look at. But at the same time, there's also no pressure from competition.
But figuring stuff out, that's not boring.
Sorry?
Figuring stuff out, that isn't boring.
No, that's definitely not boring. That's very exciting. But the business itself, it's, of course, it's something most people want to work in fintech or something sexy and cool. That tech is not sexy and cool.
Okay.
At least I think it is. It's a boring business. You can disrupt, very traditional, and a lot of room for improvement. But Jochem.AI is the complete opposite. So it's a red ocean. Everybody wants to do something with large language models and AI. There's a lot of competition. So it's interesting to see both. I think when we launched Closure, we found this old website of a kind of similar business that helps terminate contracts and accounts. It was B2C. And then we were shocked. It was 6 years ago. I was like, no, there's already someone doing it. We should stop. Well, further down the road, we discovered that it is not a problem. And it's actually helpful to be the number two to do something. So when we looked at going international, for example, there is only one country. It's also one of our neighbors. It's in Germany, and they have a similar product. And our first thought still was, okay, we shouldn't go there. Although the market would be very interesting, but we're not going to go there because there's already a company doing something similar. And I think that completely shifted that view, because it's nice to be the second one where you can educate the market together and you don't need to teach people what your service actually is.
Would you say you're now the second one?
With Jochem.AI?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're the 200s or...
Yeah.
No, I think we launched quite early, at the beginning of or just before the hype.
And when was that? When did you launch?
We built it initially for ourselves. We were not supposed to launch it as an external product that other companies could actually buy, but we just built it to make our own operations run smoother. And that was end of last year. by now there are many organizations doing something similar. Of course, I believe at least that we have our unique angle, but there are of course a lot of organizations doing something that relates to what we're doing.
And what is that unique angle?
I think then I have to go a bit more into depth, but there are a lot of AI assistants now. I think they focus on, some of them are really focusing on autonomous ticket handling, for example. So it's like a fancy, more improved version of a chatbot. Our philosophy is that there are lots of opportunities with this new kind of technology, but it's also, there's less control over it. And you should also be aware of the limitations. So we really apply it as an agent assist solution where it helps run smoother, but always an agent will check the outcome. That is still kind of
That's
general.
interesting though. So, but you learned that along the way.
That the output
that you're different in that sense, right? Or did you kick it off similar?
Yeah, I think it used to be kind of original. That part, now there are more organizations applying it in a more assist way. I think still the component that we have is twofold. First of all, we focus a lot on knowledge management. So where we see that, I think one of the benefits, and we're already talking a bit about AI, is that because of those large language models, you don't need a lot of data or months of training anymore, like you used to do with more traditional machine learning and econometrics. So that's nice. However, there is still some fine-tuning. And of course, garbage in is garbage out. So if you say we use the knowledge base of an organization, if it's not perfect, which it never is, it's outdated, limited, you name it, then the output of such kind of a solution is going to be not as you would like it to be. So we have this kind of unconventional saying where you say garbage in is quality out. And we say, well, just put in whatever you have. And we're going to improve that result because we have a feedback loop. And every time that it doesn't know the answer, we're going to translate that into a learning. And we're going to put that learning back into the knowledge base. And that has quite some benefits where you, of course, improve output along the way, but also make sure that knowledge that is currently in the heads of your team is going to be put actually in a knowledge base and saved, and knowledge should not leave in the company. So I think that angle is kind of unique. And also positioning. So we focus on enterprise. I think there are a lot of organizations that are really plug and play, like download this app and you can start tomorrow. That's not how we position ourselves. So there's also always some customization.
Yeah. So you do the customization for your customers.
Yeah. And we have, for example, a lot of integration. So enterprises work with tools like Genesis and Salesforce and SharePoint, and we include them all. So it's really a broad solution that goes into depth in terms of having it work for those kind of organizations.
Yeah.
I can just see the enthusiasm you have for this, right?
Yes.
But this grew out of your previous company.
Yeah.
Are you actively using your own product, or are you running something in beta there that you're seeing new things?
Yes. I should practice you should practice what you preach.
Sure.
So the funny thing is, we started building it for ourselves because so a little bit of founding story. We had our first employee, his name is Jochem, and he was responsible for our customer support. Then we taught him internally how to code, so he became a developer, but also kind of like second line support for the new customer support employees. And we were thinking, can't we build this replica Jochem.AI that has all the knowledge that the actual Jochem has, and that is directly integrated in our internal communication tool. So we do that more often. We used to use Slack, now we use Mattermost, self-hosted version of Slack. And we started using that. And we connected it to our knowledge base, to Confluence. But then we learned that actually a lot of information was still in the head of Jochem.
Of course.
So our knowledge base wasn't that well developed, not that complete. So we thought, well, it's a nice idea, but it doesn't really work like that for us yet. So can't we make sure that every time the AI assistant, Jochem.AI, doesn't know the answer, it will escalate the question, create a temporary channel.
The second line.
Exactly, with the actual Jochem. And then we would like to put that knowledge back. So I think we're at that stage, and then we're thinking, okay, now it's nice. And we are this small company, so if it works for us, then probably also for our customers. So within a week, we did like an MVP, we launched a website, we did some reach out. But coming back to your question, so we started using it ourselves. Then we started talking to enterprises. They have different requirements than we have. They would like nice dashboards and a lot of functionalities that we didn't need for our size organization. And that got prioritized, of course. So now we are lacking a lot of features ourselves, also because we are using MetaMost. Nobody does. Adyen does, love it. Most people use Microsoft Teams or something like that, and SharePoint. So we aren't prioritizing our internal products. So we do use it, but it's a very limited version of what we can actually do at the moment.
Love it.
Yeah, I can see that you get a lot of energy from Jochem, but then still Closure is there. How do you divide your time?
I think in terms of so in terms of product, we spend so much time on Jochem.AI, but also because it's a new product, so there's a lot of room for improvements and new functionalities, etc. And we have to build everything from scratch again, of course. Closure is a very stable business. So in terms of product, it's more about integrations of new customers, but we don't need to release a lot of new functionalities. So most of that time goes to Jochem.AI. Commercially, it's a bit more equal. So we are setting up new strategies, which of course takes a lot of time, and that is for Jochem.AI. But if you look at what we actually, the amount of customers that get in every month, it's still kind of balanced.
Yeah, and then is there one team working on both companies?
Yes, there is. Most of the team, because it's mainly a product team, like developers, they are working all on Jochem.AI. I think it grew organically, that we now have a separation between the different products we have. So we have Jochem.AI, and there's a commercial team focusing on that product. And Closure has also, there's another one. So we have the bereavement support, but also financial aid communication support. So people that end up in debt restructuring, for example, that are financially struggling, they also need to reach out to enterprises, and it's a similar solution as the Closure bereavement support solution. So they are more close together, and I think there is some overlap. So we have customers that use all three or two of the propositions.
Really?
Yes. So that helps. So we work together as a team still, but it helps to also separate and specialize in one of the propositions.
Yeah.
How would you divide your time?
I think that's. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. How?
How?
I mean, look. Yeah, I get that you're saying this is the brand new thing, right?
Yeah.
But you grew your business in a certain area.
Yeah.
You are the knowledge holder there, the founder. How do you spending your time on these three projects? Because there's two companies, but I'm hearing three different types of products.
Yeah, I have the same question for you, but I'll save that.
Yeah.
I think it kind of happens naturally. So it's just, there's also my role, it changes. So now we're setting up this marketing strategy. So that needs to go from 0 to 1. And I spend a lot of time on that, for example, at the moment. But then maybe in a couple of months from now, there are some, we are focusing more on, I don't know, the product again. So I move to that area again. So I think it's kind of like a fluid thing. And that is similar within the Jochem.AI, Closure, financial aid propositions. Wherever there's a need or where we can go faster, that's where I spend most time. And at the moment, that's Jochem.AI, because there's I think a lot of potential at the moment. But I think I have that same question for you, because I'm also figuring out, I don't know yet, maybe I should approach this in a more structured way instead of this fluid approach. How does it work for you? Because you have this startup studio, there are multiple companies. How do you divide your time over those companies, and how, your involvement in general? I would love to know how you approach it.
Overall, look, within the studio, Sharon is mostly involved in studio operations. I'm more or less on the business and the external side of things.
Okay.
But for the entrepreneurs we work with, in the past, we would basically go about it as you do, right? We'll find an idea or problem worth solving, and we could build something unique.
Yeah.
We would actually, start there and then find the entrepreneur. So that was a lot of effort and split time finding the right people for the right ideas we had ourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
These days, we also allow entrepreneurs who are in the same area say, hey, I see this problem. This is what I've seen. I have this idea there, to also come in.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is that also changes the dynamic a lot. because now the entrepreneur comes in, this is what I want to change in the world. We can split our time fairly easy because we help the entrepreneur go to rigorous validation, right? Figuring out if that problem is actually there and then validate the solution. So that's basically repeating the same process all the time. So what we'll do there is we would have guides and templates and stuff we've done before. So we've seen patterns, templates. We'll use those there. And also because, we are not the CEO of that company, we don't want to, impose and be in their position. So there's a lot of that done by the entrepreneur themselves.
Yeah.
And our effort and time is spent on, like yourself, improving the process, making sure they have the right tools to do that, but also to basically set the goalposts, right? So we're acting like, one of the founders. So when do we want to get to market? How can we support? And we have a core team of around 10 people that do all of these different steps together with us. So my time is divided. Or maybe just like you, where we would want to speed up or we're getting to the deadlines.
Yeah.
That's where we basically chip in.
And does it happen naturally or do you have this?
Dividing time. Yeah, I can answer that question. So what we have within the studio is that we always set our yearly goals. And we make them smaller to quarterly goals. And then we work with the entire team to actually see like, okay, how can we get to these quarterly goals? So our goals, they are all related to what we want to achieve with the studio, but the studio is all about launching companies. So we have our model, which shows us like, okay, this is where we start with creating a company from zero to actually spin out. And that is divided in months as well.
Okay,
so we know in which quarter we need to achieve what. So then we have a max of 6 big goals within the studio. And then every quarter we sit together with the entire team to say like, okay, what are we going to do this quarter to reach these goals?
Yeah.
And then we give all the goals an owner. And this owner is responsible to meet this goal.
Okay, yeah.
And that is how we divide our time. So we make sure that's like we have a bigger goal, but we slim that down. And we have specific owners of each goal. And then we can like easily divide that time. So we also know within a certain phase of building the company, we have an X amount of time to spread across the team.
Yeah.
And then we also know like, okay, that is 30% from the 100% we can give.
Yeah.
So that is then how we say like, okay, this goal is a bit lower on the ladder. And then we know how to divide it.
I wouldn't say it worked the first time.
No, definitely not. No. This is a structure where we have worked on for, I think, more than 3 years to actually get it this way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will say like, okay, this is too much structure for me because it's really in depth and in detail on like, okay, this is how we divide it. This is the percentage of time we spend on what. We, of course, also write our time to see like, okay, do we actually meet this criteria? And then every quarter we can also see like, how can we improve that and how can we go faster, or maybe we have to reprioritize things because this goal is never met.
Okay.
It might be the same for you. I mean, when your team is clicking, right, hey, this is very effective. You're effectively building a product to go to market. You now have 3, so you know how that feels. So with a core team of around 10 people, a lot of the things, as a founder you do normally, the team has picked up. Right. So every quarter we'd also talk about, okay, so if we're going to do this go to market next time, what will be the steps to take? Is there anything we could put into paper, or is it just, different every time? If it's repeatable, it gets off your plate and you can focus on the more important stuff. Build something that's actually important, fix an important problem.
Exactly.
That's where our main, I would say, push comes in. And within the team in studios, you'll have roles like a venture builder that would actually take the entrepreneur, by its hand, who knows the internal processes, what we've used before. And when we get to a certain point, like, okay, we've been here before. Let's do this and that. And the venture builder would basically also ramp up resources to get beyond the point, or like with all businesses, invalidate that it's not working.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think there might even be some similarities because we are, of course, no startup studio. I think I was having this discussion over dinner with some other founders a couple of weeks ago, where we were discussing like, you are a startup studio, so it makes sense that you're involved in multiple businesses. But if you are the CEO founder of a company, can you be involved in multiple companies? Is it old-fashioned to be like this? Or should you really be monofocused and spend all your time to make this one company more successful? Very interested in your personal opinion, first of all. And then, I have another question.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the phase where your company is in and what your role is within that company. So you can start a company and you can start another company. I think you can do that as soon as you feel like, okay, someone else can take care of my responsibilities in there. And of course, it also depends on the type of responsibilities you have. If you are the typical CEO of a company and you're responsible for the sales and you're just started and you think like, hey, I start another company and I will do double, I think it's a bit much. But if you feel like, okay, I'm already running this show for such a long time, there is a team working on the sales, my inputs is only needed for a bit more of the admin, financial kind of things. I give my inputs on the product, but there's also an amazing product team. Can you then start another company? Yes, of course. And then I also believe that you can accelerate that because you have more inputs to actually get to a success.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think if I can add to that, it also depends on the team. So I think we have a very, so that was the similarity I was
you're
referring
saying,
to.
and we use the team.
Yes. So
okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part why it works for us, because we kind of like a startup studio. So we have a very clear profile of the type of talent we hire, and that is people with a technical background. We have mechanical engineers, econometricians, data scientists, computer scientists, and so on, that have a commercial affinity and an entrepreneurial background. And whether you sold lemonade while you were 8 years old, or whether you actually already sold your e-commerce business, can be anything. But that helps. Mike, you were saying like, we set, or you also said we set goals and we prioritize. And I think this happens more naturally because we have those people that are entrepreneurial and they know what needs to be done. So it's not, I think they are, the team is also good at determining what
I don't think it's a team thing though. No. I have strong opinions on this, but I'll start with, maybe less positive one.
Okay, yeah.
It could be an excuse not to focus on whatever you're doing right now, right? So I'm looking for something new, and I think we have the team to do it. So you're looking at the resource and then seeing if you could deploy it in multiple places.
Okay.
Is your market then saturated? Very smart idea to look further. I believe that's something you guys bumped into, right?
Yeah.
The market could grow somewhere quicker. Yeah. Love it. But if the entrepreneur is just, looking for a new shiny object, that's for me is a bit of a red flag. Okay, then on the positive side, look, for me personally, if it fits your story, right, your personal background, how you came there, and the next logical step is to go from, hey, we have this problem within our current company, it would be very logical to fix it, with a new solution, and you could weave these things together. I think you could empower yourself to go very, very far. If it's just to start a new company and you think you have a team to do something, I think it will miss the length or the breadth to get to a success you and I would be happy with. Yeah. So yes, some CEOs can divide in 5, right? Some can't. For us at the studio, we said, okay, let's turn this around. If the story needs to align, we'll only work with entrepreneurs who actually experienced all of these problems, that basically the founder opportunity fit makes sense. They have this internal fire, they want to fix it, right? So that will make them go lengths. If you're just starting new companies to do so, because I did so myself as well, and I didn't run it as a CEO in the past, and maybe 10 years ago, the company went really well. Yeah. But I believed when I looked at it, over holidays, I could have done tenfold if you focus on it. Yeah. So if you look at it from impact growth or economical aspect, it should really make sense, I guess, for your story.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And it's also, what I believe. I don't think, if you want to do 2, go ahead, right? Who's stopping you?
Yeah,
but but as maximizing your potential, it's always really, really hard. And we've struggled with it in the studio as well. How do you maximize your knowledge and basically experience? And that's something it takes quite a long time to figure out.
True. And also, how close are the businesses? Like, how similar are they? Is it something completely different, or can you leverage?
No, we should both answer that, by the way. Yeah. Because you're similar on the sense that you use your product, but they're not similar in any other form?
You mean Closure versus Jochem.AI, like how?
Yeah, I mean, Jochem is your main thing right now.
Yeah.
They're not really similar other than maybe the customers are the same. I'm just assuming here.
Yes, no, so they are definitely two different propositions. However, there are quite some similarities as well. I think what people don't really see when they look at Closure for the first time is that it's a heavy natural language processing driven company, for example. So we literally streamline communication between hairs, so bereaved people, us and enterprises. And that is done. We handle 1 out of every 3 passings in the Netherlands at the moment. So a lot of volume with very limited operational support because a lot of that is automated. So I think that is, for example, a similarity between Jochem.AI and Closure. It all depends on a lot of NLP, LLMs. So I think in terms of the core technology we use, it is not that far apart. Indeed, it's actually quite funny. So our target audience is, we started off in a similar way, like we reached out to current customers of like, okay, it's the same audience. Then we kind of broadened our view. We said, well, we could also target those and those and those companies, and maybe not enterprises, but SMEs. We also talked about it before. And now we're bringing it, we are harmonizing it again. We're bringing back to the same target audience where we say, okay, we can serve a lot of potential customers, but we need focus. And that is actually mainly enterprises with a customer support department. So
could you say that you're like a platform above your own companies? Let's say the platform here is basically on tech. You have a lot of similarities. Maybe even on the way you go to market. Tech and tools, basically, right? That's really similar because you've been in machine learning for 6-7 years, I guess, something like that.
Exactly.
That's basically how the studio works as well. You got to find those similarities. Yeah, you need focus.
What is the main similarity you see between the different portfolio companies?
So we have a specific scope. So we build companies for the future of work.
Okay.
We only create business-to-business companies focused on the European market. For us, it's really important that we solve a business-critical problem. So we have a specific niche where we are focusing on. So before that, we always were saying, we create companies for the future of work and living. So that was already like an extra complexity. But maybe you can imagine that people then come in and like we did get architects. It was all over the place, all the types of people who wanted to start a company with us. So that was already like one hurdle to take. Then the moment that you start validating, then the one time you have to go in depth on a specific ICP, which is maybe in HR tech. And then the other time you are doing research in the real estate market. HR is not easy, but real estate is super slow. So there was so much difference between all these kind of things that we thought like, okay, we need to focus.
Yeah.
And the overlap now is basically almost everything, right? So it's the same customer type, the same ideal customer.
Okay.
The mostly business for the future of work, right? Turn the daily grind into a joy. That's basically what we're saying. So there's a lot of stuff in any office or any place, that still needs to be fixed, but the problems are too complex, basically, because everything has already been fixed. Everything we create now, there are solutions to it. But how can you make that, I would say in these day and age, more intelligent as a solution? So the customers are the same. The technology for a big part, everything web is the same. I would say now going to the back end, like all models and data, still that's changing a lot, the current day and age. But the validation steps, they basically feel the same. And we've been doing a lot of innovation on our own part as well.
Okay,
so when we're talking to customers, usually 50 to 100 before we get to a validated solution. Of course, we also now have a big database of people we talk to. We can reach out to them for different senses as well.
Yeah.
Look, you also have these problems. Let's come back to you. So now you're offering the founders who come in not only the tools to, go faster, but also almost a validated network of people who actually need different solutions. Yeah. So the overlap is now coming more of an asset than anything else.
Yeah.
Are you leveraging the overarching, the umbrella name builders? Is it like, well, this is a company of builders and we know builders and we know the other companies? Or is it like, do they...
Yeah, we have seen it in the data that it does show. Yeah, so if you're only already looking at one of our landing pages from one of our companies, then we always have like at the bottom in our footer, there is like a company of builders. That is one of the most clicked things. It's on the bottom, it's super small, but like every single landing page we launch, it's always clicked most.
It helps with credibility.
It's credibility, it's trust. You're creating a company out of nothing. If they want to look you up on LinkedIn, for instance, and they see like, hey, this company has like 50 followers. Are you signing up for that product?
Probably not.
No, and then nowadays we are all asking for all your data because we are building models on that and all this kind of. So you don't believe that it's true that they are going to bring you something of value. So that is why it's so important. So
the first steps,
yeah.
For the founder, right? In the first step, and you're validating, there is no name yet.
No.
There is no company. So
no, but then like the founder is connected to builders. So then on their LinkedIn is like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur in residence. So they know that they are doing research to create a new amazing company.
Yeah, I can imagine. Also that you have the support network behind it, and it helps with the credibility and the trust for sure.
Yeah, and overall, look, for the studio, it's important for the founder to see that the overlap actually creates value, not just in speed, but also in doing the right thing. Right, to getting to the nitty gritty sooner, because now you're working on something that clicks. We've all worked on something that didn't click. Right, what do you do? When do you quit? Where do you pivot towards? It's really nice to see if there's already a database of knowledge and a network of people to talk to get to those answers. I would say when you're in the momentum, right? I think the hardest thing in the beginning is not to lose that pace. And it will take you at least a year to get to something, tangible, valuable, so to say, if you go through all the paces. So, you get hyped and energized, I guess, from everything that's already there. I think that's really important.
And taken that year, right? So Mike just shared with us, like it takes at least a year. Jochem.AI is not even a year old, so to say, if you're talking about the launch state. Now you're shifting from your ICP, getting back to a focus. How do you plan like the rest of your go-to-market? What's your next step there?
I like that. I think we are a huge difference between Jochem.AI and Closure. We talked about red ocean versus blue ocean.
So this is a red ocean.
Yes, Closure was super clear. We have 200 prospects, large enterprises in the Netherlands that offer contracts and accounts. Generally, we talk to the COO or the head of bereavement.
Your entire market was 200 people.
Exactly. Good. So very focused in the Netherlands. So
nice,
super clear. And now Jochem.AI is different, of course. So we are figuring out how to do marketing and sales within a red ocean. And I think we, with the 200 prospects, it was a lot of networking and indirect network. And we talked to our current customers, like, do you know other charities for who it would be suitable, etc. And now we're trying out new things. So we host webinars, we attend conferences, we are gonna speak at conferences as well. We do reach out via LinkedIn, through our own tool we built, Mikey, named after a colleague as well.
Okay, so people want to see that next now, right? I mean, you have talked about
the market.
Exactly. I mean, you're now building a platform. There you go.
Yeah, that's we practice what we preach with Mikey for sure. We use that a lot. We do emails. Partnerships is new. It's also funny because I think our investors mentioned that quite a lot in the past. So when we talked about Closure, they said, well, can't you do anything with partnerships? And it never clicked. It was like, there are no logical partnerships for that. Now companies still reach out, but it's just not a logical partnership. They do something with bereavement support in general. But we are a B2B software company to automate customer journeys, a very specific one, but we are not a typical funeral bereavement support business. So
got it.
Partnership was always very tough. Never saw that working. But now for Jochem.AI, it does, because we I just learned this new concept, which is called on-top SaaS. So no vertical SaaS or horizontal SaaS, but on-top SaaS, where you plug into existing software. So we are middleware. We don't replace a knowledge base. We don't do anything like that, but we plug into existing tools. And I think partnerships now make sense. So be part of, first, not so much a partnership, but be part of the marketplaces of those organizations, but also partner up with customer journey experts, AI experts, organizations that provide customer engagement tools. We are discovering this kind of strategy now. It's very, very early stage still. So, but it's actually something that's also funny. It's something that happened naturally. So I have a background in econometrics. Quite some of my study friends work for consulting companies now. And they, of course, the problem we tackle with Jochem.AI is very hot and happening. So they talk to potential customers that are encountering this problem. And they, being my friends, just mentioned Jochem.AI, like, well, this could be a solution. And we got quite some customers out of that. So, but this was, of course, no formal partnership, but that made us think. And also some experts that reached out, like, oh, this could be a thing. There is something there. So now we have actually formalized that in an official partnership thingy. So we're also trying that out. Maybe it's, let's see how it turns out. But many different things we're trying to do.
So we just talked about a focus in your ICP. Don't you think that you also should have a focus in your go-to-market?
I think we and we are not doing that perfectly yet, but I think we do have it in mind and we make it more explicit now. So for example, in terms of the partnerships, there are many partnerships you can you can focus on. However, if we say our ICP is enterprise, then it makes more sense to close partnerships with organizations that have a network within enterprise. So I think this is something we do try. And of course, there are many things that we're not doing. So for example, Google Ads is very, very limited. You can say we're not doing that yet, basically, because we think it suits more the SME inbound approach than the enterprise game we're playing.
So could you summarize for yourself what your unique go-to-market motion then is now? Right. So assuming that outreach, ads, all those stuff, of course. Right. What's the thing that what basically makes me tell others about your product?
What makes you tell others about the products? I think it's more, that's maybe also about the product. So the angle we choose. But I think it's maybe the step after. So I think the feedback we get and what works for us is the way we often get the feedback. The reason we chose Closure or Jochem.AI is because of the team. And I think we spend a lot of time on really getting to know the customer and their actual pain. So, for example, for Jochem.AI, we have visited quite some customer support departments because we know the general problem, but it works differently every time. And you just want to be there and also see how the agents, who are the end users, work with it. Do they like it? What do they not like about it? Do they have edge cases that we didn't think about? And the feedback is generally positive, but also organizations are surprised. Like, why do you want to come to our customer support department and sit there? But I think that's something that we do and invest in, and most other organizations don't. They have a more off-the-shelf solution. So I think that's that helps, and of course, people talk about that. So it's maybe more the step that comes
so your
after.
Partnership would be, you're automating or bettering any interaction journey form. Right, part of this should be that, right? Should be basically making sure that your knowledge is up to par, maybe even more automated than anything else.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting, because we have a lot of focus on go-to-market motions, very early days. I think one of the first things we ask ourselves in the first 3 to 4 weeks of starting figuring out if a problem actually exists is if it does, what would be your unique go-to-market motion? In this day and age, I mean, you just said it, you can put as much ads on as you want and you could blast the cold outreach as hard as you want, but does that actually make the thing click? And interesting is if you figure this one out early, it's almost always the most unique feature about your product as well. So for myself, if we cannot articulate it, probably we haven't found the problem solution fit yet. Which is very interesting. So you could ask yourself these in the first few weeks, what would make others use this product or tell about your product or so unique that it's more growth than tactics,
Yeah.
right? What's the thing that will make others love the solution you're thinking about?
Yeah, and then are you mainly referring to the product? Like, what is this unique offer you have, or can it be something else, like your commercial approach? Or
oh yeah, I don't really mind at all. If no, it could be anything, but probably it's really focused on the message you're conveying. Can be about anything, right? But for example, if you would automate more of the service and support desks, somebody somewhere is now seeing, okay, we need less people, or work is more fun. There's some impact there, right? Can they easily articulate that? Is there, a big green number on a dashboard everybody in the organization sees and is proud of?
Yeah.
Are they sharing that with others? Or, if you even like the weird things like gamification, I've given 20 new inputs to our Jochem.AI engine for our company. And Jochem.AI used my answers in 80% of the time. Basically, Michael, are now the most efficient person enriching Jochem. Basically, I'm 10% of Jochem, right? So now others are saying, hey, I'm 10% of Jochem. I did 80% of the real answers.
Yeah.
Going there makes them talk about it. And also, when you now do your outreach, you're saying this random employee at random company basically helped us get there. So there's it's all of it combined.
Yeah.
But early days, if you focus on that, the adoption will be faster, and AKA that's the motion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying. I think it reminds me of this story. I never forgot it, where there was this company and they were competing with large tech companies. Very hard to get into that market. But what they did is they sold to... it's also a boring business. And they really made their buyer their ambassador. So they also posted they did a lot of PR around this person. And then they even reached out to their manager again, like, look what this person did, look at the impact, like you mentioned. So we also have this green metric that they really promoted. And their internal KPI was the time to promotion of their buyer. So they really focused on, super cool approach. And I think one of the challenges with a proposition like Jochem.AI is the business case is so clear. However, because it's so clear, there are more organizations targeting, like the business case on its own is a very strong reason to buy, but it's not so much a reason to buy our solution so much on its own, because it's this red ocean. So we need to find something else to stand out. And I think we're talking about trust and credibility. I think Closure helps with that, but also the way you position yourself. So I just read today about another company that launched a kind of AI assistant with speech. And that's super cool. It's our dot on the horizon. Like ideally, a support agent would pick up the phone and the answer would pop up on the screen with right customer history, etc. Nice. It would be amazing. But we're not there yet. Technology is not there yet. So really break it down and say like, well, first show the relevant knowledge articles. That's easy. Or make a summary of the conversation. Also easy. And they positioned it like, well, all agents are going to be... eliminated, those whole support teams, not needed anymore. It's going to be supernatural. It is supernatural. It's perfect. But that is, I think, you should also be very realistic about the outcome. Doesn't sell. Yeah. So to me, that would really decrease this credibility point of view.
But isn't then not like all compiling for you that like in the end it's about trust? We know that you're in a red ocean. If you're talking about your ICP and your unique way of like going to the market, then you're talking about like we are this unique company which actually like with you to implement this tool. I think a lot of people are still hesitant with using AI. So you go to the corporate to actually make it work for them. Yeah. So then like everything is getting together, right? The trust, your unique position is like getting there, helping them out to set it up to make it work for them.
Yeah.
So then your entire story is different because like Jochem, it's a person and it's with you from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting indeed. I think so there's still steps to make. For example, in terms of trust and credibility, I think it's still one of the challenges we always need to tackle. So we have
I believe you guys did. I mean, maybe
yeah.
it's an open question or it's insider knowledge. I don't know.
Yeah.
But companies don't trust cloud systems ever. Of course, they're also now hesitant of any large language model that's trained by somebody else because it keeps giving you ghosts or any real weird data, right? So, from my understanding, you guys have something very unique there.
Yeah, I think at least it's always a concern that is being raised, and I think we can tackle it for most companies at least. And that's there are different ways to do that. We have, I think, security and compliance is very important. We have self-hosted solutions where it's literally hosted within
on-premise.
Yeah, on-premise indeed.
There you go. That's very unique.
Most companies don't do that. I actually don't know any competitor that does it. That does on-premise yet, at least, with a similar kind of solution. So that helps, of course, but we are in the process of getting ISO certified, getting this certification.
Nice.
We don't have it yet. So that, I think, is like a typical thing. If we were talking about being our ICP is enterprise, we should have this ISO certification. We just filled out like endless security documents before, and it worked. So it was also kind of like a hustle style. But it makes sense to, if your audience is also banks and insurers, etc., then you need to have this certification, for example.
All right. So
there are also steps to make within this.
It becomes a very unique product now, right? So you go from a red market to a niche to something very unique. Basically, what we all want. I mean, maybe for all of us, what would be our advice to get to that? Because it feels like these days when technology is moving so fast, your go-to-market, your uniqueness on this is how can you basically differentiate from others, figure out what works? What's the playbook there? How to get there?
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask you about what do you see in terms of go-to-market? What do you see succeed and what not? I think that relates. It's like a similar question.
Very much so, yeah.
Maybe we can start with that and I'll come back to yours to stick with the go-to-market first.
Sure. So how to find the best go-to-market or how we iterate on those?
I think, your approach towards it, and also what do you see if you look at the different portfolio companies? What do you see works very well, and what did you try and didn't turn out as you hoped it to be?
Well, I could answer that. Very importantly so, I would not say just go-to-market, but of course we work with founders from day zero basically. Doing a very thorough research on your problem and your understanding of it is basically the answer to everything. Okay. So we call this call to the voice of customer. Yeah. So in the beginning, your ICP is not clear totally, right? You just talked about shifting from your ICP a bit, going back and forth towards it, but you're searching for that. So you're talking to who you think are the problem holders a lot. Okay. So overall, we talk to 10 to 12 every week throughout this entire process of 20 weeks. So that's a lot. Yeah. And once we start seeing that there's, problems in the market that are similar, we start talking to voices around the customer. So like potential partners, experts on that field, people consulting 100 of these companies, talking to them about the problems they see at their customers, which is hard because consultants want to talk about their own problems. But that's what we tend to do. All of these things line up into like 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, we thoroughly understand the problem. We're now basically the best expert out there because our network is 50 to 60 people times all the customers of the experts around it. You would almost automatically go into solution mode then and figure out what the thing is, what's missing. Because everybody will tell you, especially the voices around the customers, what's missing. They would want to be your design partner to get there, or the customers themselves. So from my experiences is if we feel like there's something but the market is not telling it us, and we've proceeded before, that's basically where you see the different ventures struggle. Because now once you fast forward this, they have a product and now they also need to iterate on go to market, ICP. It's hard. It's doable, but it's basically what you call a pivot.
Yeah, it needs to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And what you see is like while talking to the customers, this person, the founder of that specific company, is also like growing into that role. It's already starting to position him or herself already a bit like that. Hey, I'm starting doing my research. We start with writing articles on the research we are doing. We create awareness and we create engagement. We grow our audience there. And like then the moment that we actually have like that specific angle we want to tackle, then we also get a bit more depth there. So we start building, for instance, our prototype, and we do that in public, so that people can already follow this journey. Yeah. So it's an entire strategy from zero to like a moment that they can actually onboard the customers. Yeah. So you grow your audience slowly, and it's like, just word of mouth. And that is how you then go into it. You focus on a specific niche and you see that is what working best. But the moment that you feel that you're getting to a point that this niche isn't big enough for you, or it will not give you enough feedback, then you will need to shift gears. Yeah. And make sure that you're getting to a certain level of awareness where your audience is big enough to actually launch your product in.
Okay. Yeah, I also really love this, because I think you see this happen more often where either, as you explained it, my perception is also that you take potential buyers along the process. So some companies pretend to be big, but you do actually the opposite. You say, well, we're starting, we're doing market research, we're learning, which is...
Yeah, because, I mean, sorry to interrupt you there,
no,
but yes, of course, because if you don't, you're basically saying, hey, if you fake it, which is okay, everybody said it in lean startup times, right? You fake it and you just do it on the background. Yeah. It's doable. Downside to it is if you feel like you're a big brand and everything is already there, the only thing you can deliver is something perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody knows that's going to be a failure.
So that is one of our biggest learnings. Mm-hmm. Don't polish things up too nicely while your product isn't there yet.
Oh, we've been there. Yeah.
We have been there been there so many times, like creating an amazing landing page, show them that everything is there, and then like no signups.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, like it's super hard if you're like a sucker for crazy designs, then just to put something out there where you feel like, okay,
it hurts.
I'm ashamed. But that is for sure something what you always need to take in account. Like, we are in the Netherlands, we are in Europe, so we do have a high standard to deliver on. Yeah. So just bringing out something there what isn't nice, or where the UI, UX doesn't make sense for people, it will not work here. Yeah. So you need to deliver until a certain standard, but don't polish it up too much.
Yeah, I fully agree to that. I think we've been there as well. It's twofold. So first of all, don't indeed polish something that is already good enough. Like that is not where you make an impact. We spend time on changing content of the website again, even though it was good enough. And that is not where you need to make, like, if nobody's visiting the website, then don't make it look nicer, but focus on the outreach. And I think that the other side is, so first spend your time where it makes the most impact, and also expectation management. So it's not going to be, we still, even with Jochem, where I talked about garbage in is garbage out, or the example I gave with the voice assistant. You need to, especially with enterprises, they're used to that. It's always a bit custom. They are used to workshops and being taken by the hand.
But then it works really well if you'll take them with.
Yeah.
Right. And then especially for people who are willing to invest and have willingness to pay, because I think our answers here are all the same. It sounds like we're talking about early days of a company, but it doesn't really matter if you have 20 people, 100 people, you do like a million in revenue. If you get to this point, you basically should do the same thing. I'm now figuring out to solve your problem. How can I show you that the technology can do it, the technology we have, but also solve your problem. But it doesn't look perfect. And the real answer you need is, yes, my problem is big. I'm willing to pay for it. And now I see that you can do the tech. Could you weave it into the workflow like this?
Yep. Yeah.
And that last part is just, you can sign now, or you can sign more customers, or you can see the market better and then build the rest. I think overall, that's how an entire company is basically built, making sure you don't do premature scaling is a big word. You could also say polishing up things that don't need polishing, make it look good, but it shouldn't. It all boils down to the same thing. So I'm looking at the time, so let's take a breather.
Yeah.
Right. So
you asked a question, Mike, and then I got back to the go-to-market again.
Yeah.
But maybe you can... I just forgot about it. Sorry.
No worries.
What was it again?
I don't know. Do you? We round it up?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.
Doesn't matter. We cut this one out. We have a breather. So I'm basically looking at all the things we just said, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most important thing apparently is talking to your customers. Who knew? They'll tell you how to build the product, what to do and what not. And of course, there's a lot of magic as well, right? Where you should have an opinion and a vision and go for it no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's nice to validate with people who are willing to buy, right? Go to market, something we talked about really long, how to spend your time. Doesn't matter, where you build your product. Maybe you should build a separate product. But maybe the question to all of us, why build now in a day and age where technology is changing at rapid speed? It really fires me up. But, to anybody else, why build now?
Why build now? In general, a company, or like with AI, with the hype and...
Well, it would matter whatever comes to your mind. But to me, is why build a company now, a technology company? In this day and age, people are saying, look, people are spending less. The spend on software is less.
Yeah.
Whilst at the same time, technology is now more interesting than ever. Why build now?
Why build now? Good question. I think I'm also not sure whether things really change in terms of... So, for example, they thought that... I think we talked about it before, that the calculator would replace a math teacher.
Yep.
I didn't, clearly. And I think the same holds with generative AI. It just speeds up the process. So I don't think it's gonna... our developers, for example, have made the joke like, let's enjoy the last days while I'm still a programmer, because in a couple...
Of course,
on short notice, everybody can do what I do. I don't think it works like that. It actually accelerates the one that are already experienced. And for example, I think the thing we built with Closure is we needed still a lot of data for that to make it work. And I think a similar solution you could build nowadays way faster. Jochem.AI, we could have built Jochem.AI also 6 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yep.
It would just have taken way longer. So I think people that are... the biggest threat is not using it and just... or clamping onto something that you built before. So now they're gonna... competitors are gonna arise that can do something similar within short notice. So you cannot only focus on this product IP you have. We were talking about go-to-market, for example. Apparently, this is a super hot topic. One of AI is hartstikke. It's like a huge hot topic. But even though we talk mainly about commercial aspect, like marketing and go-to-market, etc. So apparently, you can still differentiate, but then on probably another level than just the tech you're offering. I think it does help. So it will not take too long before you can see the difference. So those parties that try to build MVPs and they can launch a product quite rapidly, I think they will, the organizations that really know what they're talking about and talk to customers, they will stand out. In the early days, it's because of the red ocean. Also for buyers, it's hard to see the difference. But I think they will. This difference will become clear in the near future. But only product is not going to be the way to differentiate yourself anymore, because it's not something unique. It's
it needs entire brand.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What about you?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Sharon.
I also believe that nowadays we are way more used to technology. We are also really busy with all the new things which can accelerate us. So if you're then talking about technology and using AI, for instance, then I believe that we are not there yet, that everyone is just randomly using it for every single thing. And we still have a lot of people who still believe that it's a bit scared in a way, or maybe they do not even have the possibilities to use it because their company doesn't allow it. Yeah. So if you're now start building something like this, I think you're before the wave. And that's the best moment to actually launch this kind of things. Because like if you're on top of it, you can only fall off. And now you can just like flow with it. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, what you're saying. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Well, by now, I mean, technology has entered a new age. Well, actually, people want to buy technology again, right? So that's really weird. Companies are now saying, I want something different. So the demand and the market is there. I also feel like now compute is affordable, right? For all of us, if you want to do smart things. I think we're also saying between the lines, as long as you're working on unique data or data created by the customers you serve, no matter what model comes, you will be the person owner of that database that created that model. So whatever comes better, you will be the one that has that unique data. And that's something we're going to work on, I think, for the last few years, is creating unique data sets that nobody else has. Basically, that's how machine learning AI always has prospered. Now it's just, they're a bit more intelligent. I think you'll see that really happen. For entrepreneurs, why build now? It's a harder time economically, but it's a way better time to talk to people.
Yeah.
Right, because they're not in this hype cycle. They're looking at how can I do things better. I cannot find my new senior employees anymore. How can I basically make this business run on less boring tasks? I think it's a great time to do that. So combining tech. I mean, I'm optimist, right, in a sense, but the tech is now getting to a point where I think when we were all little, we're thinking the tech would be there 8-10 years ago, and now it's here. And let's take it to the next level. So that's why we should build now.
Yes.
All right. So we've been cut off in time like 8 times already, but let's continue with the last question. And it's basically, you and I, Sharon and myself, asking you, Graciëlla. We have guests coming over every time, and we think it's nice if you would, ask that guest without knowing who that guest is, a question on a subject related to, entrepreneurship, technology, and life. So what would you like to ask our next guest?
I would like to ask, what is the most counterintuitive lesson you learned while being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's nice. Well, you have to give us that answer somewhere down the line for yourself. Well, right. Thanks, Graciëlla, for being here.
Thanks a lot for the nice conversation.
Yeah. Well, the round
really
is over.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did you think you have now something to put into your own playbook?
Yes, for sure. I think we talked a lot about go-to-market, and I think it's a very hot topic for us internally at the moment. So some great new insights. And I asked for if you don't have the benchmarks yet, who should you talk to? Yeah. I have a background in quantitative marketing. I cannot design a logo. I'm not creative part of marketing. So I think I'm going to reach out to you, Sharon, for sure. But I think that's very important also. So talk to the right people with the right knowledge. And don't be the number one. Not with the business idea, but also not with some parts of running a business.
Happy to help.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here. And
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this Playbook podcast with Graciëlla from Jochem.AI and Sharon and myself from Builders, where we talked about, mostly I would say, go-to-market and how to put it into your playbook. We do have a very interesting question for our next guest, so be sure to tune in next time.